The real reason you feel lost after losing your job is because you don't know who you are when no one needs you anymore. Not your company, not your title, not your degree, not what you do. So let me ask you a question. Who are you? I remember when I lost the last job that I worked, not knowing like where I was going to go from there. I had taken this last position. I was a 911 dispatcher and I was raising my kids. I was still trying to make money to raise my children. I had been working on been in the personal development field for a while at that time. However, I still was trying to figure out my own identity. When I lost my job, I didn't know I'm doing all of this. I'm all over the place. Like, who am I? Really? Who am I? And it wasn't the first job I had been let go from. So after this one, I was just like, I'm done with this. I am done with this. I had to ask myself. I had already started Sherre Webb Life Coaching. I had already been making videos and putting content out and trying to help people in that. And I had already been on my own journey of learning about changing my mindset. And whatever I learned, I shared it with others. Hence, how Sherre Webb Life Coaching became a thing. Is because I was like becoming freer in my mind and I was understanding. But after that last job loss, because I still needed to work a job, I just was like, now what? But I also knew I am not going to do this again. I am not going back to a job, a traditional job. So I had to figure out, who was I? Who am I outside of everyone else? I had to figure out why losing external validation, because y'all know how it is when you tell somebody, oh, I work for this company, and how people are like, ooh, that's a good job. So I had to figure out, who was I outside of external validation? Because when you lose that, the external, losing the external validation, what it does is it forces you to meet yourself. Well, I met myself. I I became an Uber driver because I refused to go back to another job. So I became an Uber driver and I was still making content and just still figuring it all out. And that's kind of how it goes when you decide you're going to walk your own path. You see, I was taught to go to school. I'm what am I, Gen X? Gen X was taught to go to school, get a degree, find a good job, stay loyal, and then retire. And I knew that wasn't my story. I knew that wasn't going to work for me. But what happens when, if you are that person, what happens when the system you've trusted for so long no longer protects you? They lay you off. They rely on AI to restructure the company. You're no longer valuable. You're disposable. These companies now are changing their priorities. And on top of that, after you've given all your time and energy and heart and soul and everything, you are burnt out. I think this is central to no validation needed. The problem isn't that people lose jobs. The problem is that they lose themselves. And maybe you can relate to this because you've given years and years and years to a job, to the point that that job, the title, the money, the paycheck, the people you work with have become your identity. So what does needing validation? This is what we need to figure out first, is what does needing validation actually look like? Because here's what it can actually look like, and you may not have even been aware of it. A job title, a title in the family hierarchy. Like, I'm the middle sister. I'm the big sister. I'm the mother. I'm the father. I'm your mother. I'm your father. I'm your parent. It can look like promotions or approvals or followers or likes. External validation can even look like a parent's approval or a spouse's approval. How much of your life have you spent waiting for someone else's approval? How much of your life have you spent waiting for someone else to tell you that you're enough? No validation needed, it doesn't mean I never appreciate or that you will never appreciate encouragement. We all need encouragement sometimes, but what it does mean is that my identity, your identity, no longer depends on that external encouragement or appreciation. You're okay with or without it. Knowing the distinction between the two is very, very powerful. I want you to know this. My name is Sherry. This is No Validation Needed, and this channel is for you if you've been laid off, if you're afraid of losing your job, if you are, because that's a big thing right now. So if you're afraid of losing your job, you're successful, but you also feel empty because you've spent your life helping everyone else. You're over 40, or maybe you're not, but definitely if you're over 40 and you're wondering, like, what's next? And you've always wanted to build something of your own, or maybe the loss of the job, the change of the world has created that desire within you. So now you're like, I want to build something of my own because you spent years asking for permission to become yourself. I'm going to tell you what happens here on No Validation Needed. I am going to talk about rebuilding your identity. If you've lost who you are, you just never really discovered who you are. I'm going to teach you how, once you build your own identity, how you can build a brand. I'm going to teach you about visibility, and there are different layers of being visible. I'm going to teach you communication, storytelling, content creation, entrepreneurship, reinvention of yourself after a job loss or after just life happening and you're like, I don't know who I am anymore. I'm definitely going to teach you emotional resilience. I will teach you AI. So I can teach you all of these things. Building opportunities instead of waiting for them. Build your own opportunity. I'm going to teach you how to own your own voice. I want you to do something. Ask yourself this. If your job, or maybe I'm going to ask you this, if your job disappeared tomorrow, who would still be standing in your shoes? Who is that person? That's who we're going to discover together. I'd like to welcome you to No Validation Needed because we are all about rebuilding our identities after losing them. I know because I've been there. I've done that. I'm forever grateful that I know exactly who I am now because I did the work, because I went through the fire. And now I want to help you get through it. Welcome to No Validation Needed.